Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the Thrift Meets Style Trail tutorial. I'm Barbara and I'm the General Manager of Garage Sale Trail. And it's my great pleasure to be here to welcome you all to today's event. In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So let's tell you a little bit about today's event. To say we've been excited about today is a massive understatement, and we've been really bowled over by the response to the event too. So we've been really delighted to see there's going to actually be over 900 people tuning in to join us for today's session. So a really big hello and welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us. So I'd really encourage you all to ask questions. So you'll see a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Jump in there to ask any questions of our panelists throughout today. No question is a dumb question. Don't listen to Dorothy from the Golden Girls. So pop those questions in and Annabelle will get to those through the course of the presentation today. For those of you that don't know us, today is being organised by Garage Sale Trail, and we're a not-for-profit that's really all about how individual action can help to reduce waste and play a part in fighting climate change. We started 12 years ago in one suburb here in Sydney in Bondi Beach, and the whole idea really was just to get people together, to have fun, get to know each other and stop good stuff going to landfill. And that the tagline back then was all about don't dump it, sell it. Fast forward to today, and the campaign is now happening nationally across Australia. This year, we're expecting to see over 300,000 people selling or shopping on the Garage Sale Trail at 10,000 garage sales happening nationwide. And those together, the community of people involved in Garage Sale Trail will save over 1.5 million kilograms of stuff from landfill. The great news is this year you don't even have to sell or shop. Cue the trail tutorials which you're joining us for today. Today is the first of 3 sessions we're going to be running over the next week. And the sessions are really all about introducing you to some of the fantastically inspirational people we get the privilege of working with here at Garage Sale Trail. So we hope you have lots of fun tuning into today, and we hope you leave with a kind of fresh invigoration for how the small actions we're all taking as individuals can actually have a really big impact on the planet, on our communities, and also on our human being. Before I hand you over to Annabelle, just a few thank yous. Firstly, to the 100 councils across Australia who make what we do possible. In every state and territory, we're really delighted to have the support of a number of local governments that make what we do possible. Big thank you also to our presenting partner, PayPal. They're doing some pretty snazzy stuff with us actually, meaning you can even pay by QR code on the Garage Sale Trail this year. We're also working with Poshmark as our fashion resale partner. And if you're into thrifting, and I'm sure you will be after today, they're a great online second-hand marketplace. And last but not least, a big thank you to the New South Wales Government and New South Wales Environment Protection Authority. So that's all the kind of formalities from me over. I'm going to hand you over to Annabelle, which is what you've all been waiting for out there. And obviously Annabelle needs no introduction. She's smart, she's sassy, she's sporting an awesome new haircut, and she's pretty amazingly sustainable too. So over to you, Annabelle.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this exciting panel. I've been looking forward to it for weeks, and because I'm currently on leave, I've really, had not much else to think about except for what I'm going to say to these great women that we've assembled for the panel today, and also, frankly, what I'm going to wear. More of that in a second. I want to add my acknowledgement, the traditional owners of wherever it is that you're joining this panel from. I'm dialing in from Gadigal country, the great Eora Nation, and I'd just like to take a quick second to recognise that the very themes behind this panel are themes that have been practiced on this continent for tens of thousands of years. Thrift and thoughtful use of resources is something that was going along pretty smoothly on this continent until a couple of 100 years ago. But that's not to say that we can't altogether turn it around. My outfit today, I'm just going to spend 2 seconds talking about it because it's one of my favorite recycled items. I bought it on eBay in London 15 years ago. I've had 3 children since then, so I've sometimes fit it and I've sometimes not fit it. It's a kind of fantastic ensemble that has a coat and a cocktail dress, and look at the lining, check it out. I love this thing. When I first bought it, my boobs were a bit higher than the darts, but now it fits perfectly because 15 years of gravity have really taken care of that fit issue. I love it because I love the feeling that it had a full life before it got to me. It's been around for probably 70, 80 years by now. And it's got another life with me because I cherish it. And I hope that my daughter will love it too after I and my boobs no longer can load myself into them. So what is today about? We've got 3 sections to this session. We're talking about our expert panel who will be meeting in just a second. We'll be talking about how to shop thriftily and how to shop secondhand and how to find the best stuff. And then we'll have a bit of a chat about styling because our panelists are uniquely qualified to comment on that particular matter. Now, why do we recycle? Well, I love secondhand stuff, firstly, because I'm incredibly cheap. I hate paying full price for anything. And I particularly hate paying full price for something that's then going to like end up in landfill. I hate the idea of waste. I also love the variety that you can find when you shop for secondhand. It's like a lucky dip. And sometimes you have an incredible day. Sometimes you find nothing. But, you know, you wait for the next time. And our experts today are going to tell you how to maximize your chances of striking gold. And of course, it's a massive and an urgent environmental imperative. Australians are really bad in this area of clothing and textile wastage. On average, Australians buy 15 kilograms nearly of clothes a year. That's 56 new items, and 84% of that ends up in landfill, which is just a shocking and unnecessary indictment. So here's our panelists. I'm going to introduce them to you now. They are all in their unique and individual way, hotly engaged in this pursuit of fabulous fashion finds that are also sustainable, saving all of that fabric from landfill. So I'm going to run through them one by one quickly. First of all, there's ARIETTA Compton. You may know her as at Pop to the Op Shop. She's an op shop blogger and a history teacher. So she knows her way around where to find all the great stuff and also can historically contextualize it as well, which is double thumbs up. Then we have EMILY Kate Symes, who you may already follow. She's at Eco-Love, and she is well known for establishing Australia's first zero waste clothing boutique called Eco-Love in Paddington. And she also runs a successful IGTV and podcast about sustainable fashion. So we'll be talking to her in a second too. We also have KAYLA RUGGIERO. KAYLA has a fabulous TikTok channel. She's across a number of social media platforms, but look at KAYLA go. That's her assemblage on how to recreate Barbiecore using only secondhand items. She brings a smile to my face every time I watch one of her videos because her enthusiasm and her sense of style are just second to none. And she's full of incredibly complicated and good ideas that even after decades of thrifting, I had never thought of. So very strong for strategy. We also have Beck Collins. So she's at An Insightful Haul, great handle, and she does these fabulous outfits of the day that are highly addictive. I kind of look at them and I like to think I can try and guess where things come from, and I'm always surprised. So we'll be talking to Beck in a minute as well. First of all, I'm going to go to you, Emily, I think. Now, you started a zero waste boutique, Eco-Love, in Paddington. And you've also, I mean, this is a place where you can hire high-end fashion, right? And you supply all sorts of people, up to and including people attending the Logies.
Yes.
What's behind your idea for this boutique?
Hi, Annabelle. Nice to chat to you today. My concept of this boutique actually came about from when I was 4 years old. So my journey started with my mum. We used to op shop. Well, I lost my dad early in life, and so it was just me and my mum, and our way of bonding and also, to save money and what was affordable was thrifting for us. I remember finding her wedding dress to my stepdad for $6, which she wore on her wedding day. And we still have that dress. I ended up reusing it again for a Halloween event, and I went as Madonna. So it just really goes to show that, fashion can really connect people. It's about community. I have that mutual love of op shopping with my mum. I also moved to Asia and I saw the scope of the waste over there. And what's happening is op shops, when they're at capacity, they're going on to third world countries. And that waste is affecting the economies over there because people, they don't know, they're not supporting their local makers and artisans there, but they're buying our waste. So it was really eye-opening, and that's what really started the boutique. And, we wanted to show people options to shop sustainably, whether that is hiring or hiring or, buying pre-loved and shopping vintage. We wanted to shift perceptions that luxury doesn't have to mean new.
Okay, I cannot be the only person on this call who really wants to know where you found that wedding dress.
Yes, so she found it at a Salvo's op shop, and I'm originally from Brisbane, so it was just in a random op shop. I don't think it's even around now, but that was like 25 years ago. But yeah, literally op shops back then are what saved me. My mum, she would sew my clothes for me. It was all that we could afford at the time because it was just me and her. So that love of fashion and op shopping started at a very young age. And then it went on to when I was modeling overseas and being in Asia, just seeing the direct impact that our consuming behavior has on the rest of the world, not just ourselves here in Australia. And that made me think, well, I actually want to be a part of the solution and not the problem. And so that's how EcoLove started.
Great philosophy. Thank you. And I always love looking at wedding dresses in op shops. I mean, I've never been married, actually. I just overlooked that opportunity, but which is shocking, really, because it's a great fashion opportunity. But my 15-year-old daughter recently bought a fabulous wedding dress from Dulcie's Bus Boutique in Adelaide. So I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You don't need to get married. But
yes,
to wear it, which is perfectly reasonable. Thank
and
you.
we also have wedding dresses at EcoLove that you can hire, and we're seeing a lot of people saving money. Instead of spending $20,000 or whatever it is on a dress, they'll rent one for $300, including dry cleaning, and they're using that money towards a honeymoon. So it's just really great to see.
That is spectacularly sensible. Okay, let's go to you now, Kayla. Now, I mentioned your amazing TikTok channel, which showcases delivers just a power punch of shopping tips. And you also recreate celebrity styles using pre-loved clothes. Now, your journey also started pretty young too, didn't it?
Yes, it did. So where I live in Adelaide, I've got an op shop seconds from my house. So I used to go op shopping with my mom when I was like 8 years old, 7 years old. We would go here and there, but like nothing too consistently. As well, my dad is a vintage Coca-Cola collector. So we would always go to like toy fairs, and I just saw like stuff that was secondhand and vintage as really, really valuable. And as well, my mom, like when we were at the op shops when I was younger, she'd be like, Nigella goes op shopping as well, Kayla. And I just thought that was the most rock and roll thing ever. I'm like, Nigella, that's so cool. But honestly, when I fell in love with op shopping was 7 years ago when I was 15, and I was at Savers. I'll never forget it, finding like an $8 denim jacket. I was there for like to buy a costume. But I was like, no, let's test out the jackets. And I fell in love. The fact that I could look stylish, feel confident, and at the fraction of the price, I was just in awe. I'm like, how is not everyone doing this? So yeah, ever since then, I've just been just in awe of op shopping. And yeah, that's where I get all of my clothing practically. And in 2020, I posted my first TikTok just purely because I love to watch other people's thrift videos and what they find. It's really inspiring for me. I still love it to this day. So I posted my own, and that did pretty well on TikTok. And then it was only until this year I went, stuff it, let's just make my TikTok purely just op shopping. And I try and aim to inspire young people to go op shopping, get rid of the stigma, see the possibility as well. You know, the op shops in your area have incredible items, and yeah, just really want to inspire people, motivate people to go.
You make such an important point there, Kayla. I reckon. I love what you said about your dad, who sounds like quite an intense Coca-Cola collector. I mean, are we talking many rooms of stuff, or is it really curated?
He is obsessed. Like, the shed is filled. Yeah.
All right, I'm getting the vibe. But you talked about how he a value for old things, and that's really important, I think, because, you know, I think some people kind of grow up thinking that there is, you know, that it's grubby or not right to wear things that are secondhand, or, you know, I mean, some people are very hung up on wearing secondhand shoes, for instance. Not the problem that I've ever suffered myself, but you know, I think that you can really influence your kids by setting an example that is about valuing things from the past, valuing the story of an item and the work that went into making it, for instance, as well. And I think you're doing a great job of passing that message from your dad through the generations, possibly without some of the full Coca-Cola brand. Thanks for that, Kayla. Now you, Arietta, now you, as I mentioned, are a history teacher as well. Mm-hmm. Do you get fascinated by the theories and thinking about what might be the history behind any garment that you find?
Yeah, I do. I think when I see a vintage label in an op shop, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have it. Even if it doesn't fit me, I like agonize over like, oh, but it's like, it's classic 50s or it's a particular era. So I always think like, oh, like I wonder what this person wore, or like what their life was like wearing this outfit. And so I'm obsessed with your dress and coat. So that's 50s, 60s is really my favorite kind of era for fashion. So yeah, when you showed your whole outfit, I was like, oh my gosh. So, but I do love like looking at the history of fashion as well and why fashion's changed. Yeah, so as a history teacher, it's a little bit more richer for me, understanding different eras and how that reflects what was happening in the world and what was happening in Australia at the time. So yeah, that's just sort of adds a bit of an extra layer to it all.
So interesting the way fashion can kind of reflect the economics and the politics of the time as well. Like after World War II, when, you know, skirts suddenly became fuller because there was less of a shortage of material, and this idea of kind of using excess fabric in your clothing was this incredible indulgence. You know, it was kind of, so you look at the shapes of the clothing from that era, it tells you a lot about what people were thinking and feeling like. I share your excitement about a vintage label. I'm just going to flash the one from my coat, because it's from Bird Speakman, Wilmington, Delaware, and the label is hand stitched into the coat. It's just like a thing of beauty, and I know no one can hear it, but I love looking at it when I put it on, because I think of whoever it was that stitched that label in with such care. So anyway, we're looking forward to some great tips from you shortly, Ari. And I should say, like, a big shout out to our panel, because they've joined us here from all sorts of different locations. Some of them are on holiday. That our next speaker, Beck, has actually hunted about 15 people out of the house that she's staying in with friends in order to find a quiet room. That's why she's in front of this room, like a saint. Anyway, of course, but Beck for making such a profound effort to join us today.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear the last bit. Was there a question?
That's kind of on you, Beck. Sorry about that. It's an old moderator's trick, just to work out how alert everybody is. Beck, what I want to know from you was, as I understand it, you're quite a recent convert to the art of thrifting. Can I get you to tell us how you got into it?
Yeah, I mean, mine's a bit of a random story, to be honest. I think I probably picked up my journey about 6 years ago. A friend of mine said, "Oh, I'm going off to hormone school." And I said, "Hormone school? What do you mean?" And she said, "Oh, well, you know, I'm going to learn about the chemicals in beauty and the chemicals in food and the chemicals in clothing, and I'm going to learn about how it affects me and my body." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that sounds really interesting." And so that led me to starting a podcast series by Alex Stewart, which was Low Tox Life is what it's called. And so listening to Low Tox Life got me all involved in all sorts of low tox living. And then I actually started in clean beauty. So that was the first thing that I did to change my life, was shopping by Nourished Life, and everything I was thinking, okay, everything I'm putting into my body has got to be chemical free or vegan or whatever. So I started through clean beauty. I then got into kind of looking at clean eating, and Sarah Wilson and her I Quit Sugar and her bone broth story. And if nobody understands what the bone broth story is, I highly, highly recommend you Google it to understand that. But Sarah Wilson and zero waste cooking and recipes, then that led me on to probably Claire Press with her Wardrobe Crises podcasting. And her podcasting was all about ethical fashion and production. And that's where I really, it all came together for me, kind of embracing that new re-educated lifestyle. And I suddenly thought, why am I still shopping in shops? I guess I don't need to do that anymore. So the benefit of it, I guess, was I actually changed my style. I've always loved fashion and styling, and I've loved putting outfits together, and it's something I have actually always done, but I've never done it from a secondhand perspective before, other than maybe clothes shopping with friends, clothes swapping with friends, or hand-me-downs and things like that. So I was probably unconsciously starting my own movement. But yeah, it's been new to me because it has been a journey over 6 years, but I actually won't even go into a new shop anymore, or I can't. I'll go with friends because not all of my friends are into thrifting as much as I am, but I'm always on the hunt for my friends as well, and I try to buy pieces for them to get them into it and get them encouraged to go for themselves. But yeah, it's relatively new in the sense that it did take a journey. It wasn't just an overnight thing. It did take a couple of years, but I love it. And yeah, my style changed. So I'm really into the 80s now. My pussy bows. So thank God the campaign's on the 80s this year. So great.
Kayla's got some incredible 80s videos. So if you're looking for inspiration, and you've name-checked a whole bunch of really great resources there, so thank you. And I think it's true, isn't it, that it's so easy to live as a consumer in this society, and you're almost encouraged not to too broadly about what happens to the stuff that you buy and discard, what happens to the packaging, how much happens in the process, how much wastage is inherent in the process even of producing clothes, because what you end up with is shiny and beautiful and you want it. But the more you start poking around at all of this, the more disturbed you tend to feel about it. Emily, I want to come back to you and ask the question of why it is that clothing is such a particular issue in sustainability in this country.
So Australian women on average, actually, it's been reported they consume about 27 kilos of fashion each year. They only use about 33% of what's actually in their wardrobes, and they discard about 23 kilos of that amount away per year, whether that be donating, throwing away, giving away clothes. And that's really alarming because that's actually double the global average, which is 13 kilos in the UK. So that just shows the scope of us as Australian women, and the opportunity about how we can turn that around. And, through thrifting, circular fashion, I think there's a great opportunity for us to, you know, be the change we wish to see. So if we're doing that in ourselves, we can inspire our community to also do the same. I know that since I've been on this thrifting journey, a lot of my friends, you know, just to have fun, and they hang out, and I've gotten them into thrifting. So yeah, I think it's a problem, but it's really becoming more mainstream now. Thrifting has really become quite trendy. So I know when I started 10 years ago, and everyone's like, oh, there's still this stigma against secondhand and even renting. But now it's really taking off, because I think, as Rebecca touched on, those resources, so having more and more people getting out there and educating us, you know, we're able to make more informed decisions and consume less.
Your shop, Eco Love, which you're sitting upstairs from right now, I think. So if anyone's knocking on the door, she's busy. But you obviously deal to a reasonably high-end clientele. You're just fashion items that were pretty pricey when bought new. How hard has it been to acclimatise that buyership to the idea of secondhand?
Yeah, look, when we started, so we opened our boutique just over 4 years ago, it was quite challenging because there was still this stigma against secondhand. And we're in Paddington, which is quite, you know, as we know, an affluent area. And people are quite, you know, they sort of stick to their brands and, you know, having the latest things all the time. But having the physical store, as opposed to just being online, and really connecting with your community, so having people walk in and really chatting about sustainable fashion, for me, that's so much more powerful, and you can really have more of an impact in that way, because there's so much information out there. It can actually get overwhelming for people. And so we've done workshops with our local council, Wallara Council, where we had, you know, ways you can thrift. We had eco stylists in. So for us, the big advantage was to really show and educate people that, you know, they can make a difference, and whether that be renting or, you know, thrifting or, you know, buying pre-loved, there's so many options. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, and you don't have to do everything right straight away. You can start small. And that really is with just that mindset of going, how can I consume less? Do I need this? You know, and opting for quality over quantity. So the reason we focus primarily on luxury fashion is that luxury fashion tends to be made well. So it tends to last longer. It might also be classic styles that are trans-seasonal, so they might last season to season. So you've got, you know, more sustainable wardrobe, because you're not having to buy everything like consistently to have current trends. So if you've just got those great, you know, like a classic trench coat, a blazer, you know, a good pair of jeans, that can last you years and years to come. And that's what we really encourage here at Eco Love. So we're also against renting fast fashion, because I know a lot of rental companies are renting fast fashion, but we focus on quality. So those garments, even though they're rented, because renting isn't always the most sustainable option, at least they might be able to rent, you know, 30 or 50 times as opposed to 3 times. And I think that's where, you know, the real cause is getting people around that mindset of quality.
So this may sound like a pretty stupid question, but I just love to spell it out. Like, how does buying secondhand actually make a difference?
Yeah, well, instead of purchasing, you know, a new garment, which would take so much resources to make, because every day we vote with our dollar. And so each time we're spending our money, we're actually making a difference in the world, in our economy, in our community. So I always encourage shopping locally, you know, supporting brands that are locally made, fashion that's ethically made, that's fair trade, but also going into your op shops. You know, when you spend money there, that money is going back to your communities. The women we have here clearing their closets out, you know, they're bringing their things in to resell. We're helping them clean their closets, but then they might buy something pre-loved, or they have an event. So it's really trying to enable people to have those options to shop sustainably and really just empower them. I think the goal here for us is really empowering Australians and saying, you've got many options to shop sustainably. You're not just limited to thrifting. You know, maybe you might want to buy that pre-loved, or if you're going to buy new, maybe buy from a conscious brand, or rent if you've got an occasion.
Yeah, the research is really important, isn't it? Like, it takes very long to do, but there are like plenty of organisations that are sort of interrupting some of those chains of wastage in fashion. I'm thinking about an organisation called the Social Outfit, which is a social that trains refugee and migrant women to create garments that are sewn from fabric that's excess, that's been donated by often quite high-end fashion labels. I know Bianca Spender donates a lot of fabric to the. And so suddenly you have fabric that is great, beautiful fabric that might have gone to landfill. It's actually being used to train, recycle, and it kind of has a bunch of great social outcomes. Now, I know that we're all gagging to get into some serious tips. I know I am, because I've learned a lot just from watching you guys on social media over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to jump in with you, Ari, because you are an expert in finding ways and means. I know for a lot of people, the idea of how to look for secondhand or vintage clothing, particularly that is going to fit them, is a really daunting task. So which online platforms, I wonder, just tell me about where you shop and the range of the outlets that you patronize.
Yeah, so I mean, physical stores, I try and find, obviously I've got a really big Salvo's warehouse near where I live, and a couple of really big Vinnies as well, but I find the little church op shops or the little independent run op shops are always really good for like those gems. I always find good vintage or really good quality items in those smaller op shops. I think because they're not frequented as much and they don't get huge volumes of like product. So yeah, in terms of store, always shop around, shop outside of your like suburb. I try and, every school holidays, I gather a bunch of my teacher friends and I'm like, I'm going out to, I'm going into the city. Let's go check out some op shops, or I'll go to different areas. If I'm visiting people around Sydney, I'm like, oh, what op shops are in the area? Much to my husband's dismay. He's like, we're not going for op shopping. But I'm like, yes, we are. So, yeah, like going outside your comfort zone in terms of where you travel to. But as well, like, I've got 2 little kids, so getting out and about is really hard sometimes. My 4-year-old has started to be like, I want to go home now. So he's got an opinion now.
Kids to like a plant nursery, they're not always right into it, are they? You're like, oh, this is interesting and amazing. You will be here with me. And they're like,
yeah. So I find Instagram and Facebook, I get a lot of my secondhand items from. I follow, I guess, the nature of my Instagram, because I'm talking about secondhand finds. I get a lot of people reselling following me. So I kind of go like, I'll be like, oh, I'll check that out. And I've found a lot of like just usually mums that are reselling on Instagram. Usually they're not really expensive items as well. So the price range is a little bit more middle to lower price range. So a lot more affordable. I obviously have to factor in postage costs, but I mean, it's like $10 an item, and most of them will shove as much as they can into one package. So that's really helpful. And Facebook, I particularly look at buy, swap, sell groups for brands that I like, or brands that I know run my size, or that I know have an idea of, oh, like this week, I'm pretty sure I got about 5 or 6 dresses from Princess Highway just from their buy, swap, sell page at like $20 a piece. Because I know what I fit in their products and I know how those dresses look on me. So I know what I like. So that's a really good one. I find if you know brands that you like, or know particular brands that run your size or what fits on you well, I find that's probably the best way to go in terms of looking more specifically. If you're time poor and don't have time to sort of scour through a lot of racks at an op shop, yeah, physically going to an op shop, you need the time. You need to be able to sort of hunt. But if I'm in in a rush, I keep an eye out for patterns or fabrics. I love stripes and polka dots, so that's what will catch my eye, and florals. So that's what I'll pick out first at a rack if I've got a time constraint. and fabrics, like obviously the more like the polyestery kind of products, you can feel like you can probably tell when things are pilling really quickly. So just having a quick eye for a few different things if you're in a rush or don't know where to start.
That's a good tip, Ari, about knowing brands that you're comfortable in and that you know that you tend to work on you. I remember when we were putting together the wardrobe for a documentary that we made about Parliament House. This is going back a few years, and I knew I needed a structured jacket, and my friend Samantha had one from Willow that was great. And so I just looked out for it online and found one and bought it like at a fraction of the price that it was originally. And then afterwards, a year later, I realized that I'd bought it from Mia Friedman.
Oh, wow.
Mia had put it on through a consignment thing, and we worked out that I had bought it at the same time. That, yeah, anyway, so yeah, there's all sorts of adventures you can have with online shopping. Beck, I wondered if you could give us a quick guide to what online platforms are good for what sort of gear.
Yeah, look, I mean, me personally, I don't look for brands. I probably look for more styles or genres or eras, I guess. And I'm very much into vintage shopping. I think Poshmark, if we start off with Poshmark, they're probably really good for everything as an overall general category. They do clothes, so they do men's, kids, women's clothing. They also do pets clothing and accessories, which a lot of people don't really realise. They also do electronics, and they do home goods and homeware and home decor and things like that. So as an overall, if you're just starting out, I think Poshmark would be my first go-to, and I'm not just saying that as an ambassador, I'm actually just saying that. And I think it's probably more of a trusted site as well. And then you've got eBay, you've got Etsy, you've got Depop. I think if they do have nuances through the different platforms. So as I said, like if I'm looking for specifically vintage, I will often look at Etsy first because it's also an international site. So you can buy and sell, you can buy clothes from all over the world. Poshmark, unfortunately, even though Poshmark is, it is in quite a few different countries. Unfortunately, we can only trade in Australia at the moment. So I think really good vintage comes off Etsy, also comes off Instagram. I follow a lot of people on Instagram like Ari, and I get a great amount of vintage at really good prices. I think if you're looking for, a lot of people are really into like 90s and streetwear. Or 90s Y2K streetwear, that's probably Depop I'd be going to. And then I think there's some new ones that have popped up, like Aerobe's quite new to Australia. Depop also trades internationally, so you can get some international garb from overseas. But yeah, I think it depends really more on the category of what you want. Overall, and as Ari said, you've got marketplace and you've got all the fan clubs, and you can go by brand. But I think I like the idea of the official online platforms because of the verification process around it and the authentication process. So if you're even looking at Poshmark, you can do Luxe. I forgot to mention Luxe and New with tags. So I just think sometimes you can get. I find eBay is great for certain things, but it's not I don't think it's a great site for a lot of things. So I think the actual official online platforms are a lot better to shop for.
Okay, so I got a question. I mean, I know we're not going to Q&A just yet, but I'm going to throw in some of the questions that are coming in because some of them are really relevant. There's one from Danielle, and I think this is something that a lot of people might want to hear about. And anyone on the panel can put up their hand and answer this if you've got a great tip. Danielle says, I'd like to get into buying secondhand shoes, but I'm concerned about hygiene. What is the best process for cleaning and sanitizing? Now, we've spent the last 2 years obsessed with cleaning and sanitizing, so surely somebody's got a tip across the panel on how to attack that. Yeah.
So as a consignment boutique, we do get a lot of secondhand shoes come in. We are quite selective. Obviously, we're not going to get shoes that are like too moldy or anything like that for hygiene reasons, but you could just use an antibacterial wipe Leather conditioner, I always tend to like put things in the sun for a bit, not too long, because you don't want the leather or the colors to fade. But the sun is one of the best antibacterial. Like, you could kill a lot of things with the sun. If there's a bit of mold, air it out outside in the sun for a bit, give it another wipe, and generally it's fine. If there are any repairs, you can take it to your local boot maker. So that's what we do in store. But yeah.
Great idea, because you can really, you know, turn an old pair of shoes into an amazing looking new pair of shoes by getting the heels redone. That certainly perks up a number of my pairs of shoes and boots that I've had in circulation for many years. And you make a great point about the sun. And I think that sometimes people are weird about op shops because they're like, oh, it smells musty. And but, you know, hang on the washing line in a nice breeze will absolutely get rid of that issue for you. So it's definitely not something to be permanently put off by. Kayla, I want to bring you in now because I know that you're an absolute bandit for op shop tips. I've watched a few of your videos and I'm like, oh my God, this woman's on fire. Because I'm like, yeah, I know kind of my way around op shops, but you're like, find out when their stock comes in, find out when it gets put out, you know. So can you give me a few hot tips on how to make the most of your op shopping experience?
Wow. Okay. My number one tip is similar to what Ari said, the small op shops. Oh my God, have so many gems. Don't get me wrong. I love my Salvos, Vinnies, Savers. I love them all. But the small op shops are just on another level. I think it's because people automatically assume there's going to be nothing inside. It doesn't look as appealing from the front. I've actually got something on the side here. This Moschino bag, I don't look for brands, but when I was like in year 9, I found this for $3 at an op shop, and it's real, from a small op shop.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like the ones that are in halls, churches, the ones that say opportunity store, go in there. They're the best. I've got little notes on the side so I don't forget, so that if I'm looking off, that is why. I think as well, going consistently and not being put off if you don't find something. My friends would come to me and be like, I went to that op shop that you suggested, I found nothing. And I said, do you think every time I go, I find something? It's always, you know, going. The one near my house, I think they're sick of me. I try and get there like at least twice a week, one at the beginning, one at the end, and make friends with the volunteers there. 2 questions that I think changed my like whole op shopping experience was asking them, hey, what are your discount days? So I know I like to go in there at least on a Tuesday or a Thursday because I know there'll be discounts. Like, op shopping is already quite inexpensive, but you know, it's always good to get that extra discount in there. And also asking them like what days they put out stock as well. And don't be afraid to ask an op shop. If you're really after, let's say, like a black leather jacket, don't be afraid to ask, hey, do you have any at the back? La, 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 la. And I'm sure they'll be so happy to help. I went into my local op shop and I was like, I'm looking for black boots. Do you have any? And she's like, I've got a whole trolley. And she just brought out a whole trolley. I'm like, queen. Oh my goodness. But yeah.
You are, I mean, definitely, I mean, follow everybody on this panel, but Kayla is extremely liberal with her advice on all her channels, and she's amazing fun as well. Listen, I wondered, I mean, I don't want to suggest, Emily, that you're our, you know, expert on quality items and everybody else isn't, but like, do you have any particular tips about looking for luxury items on a budget? Obviously, Kayla managed to pull off the steal of a century with that Moschino bag when she was a kid. But what are our contemporary shoppers looking for, and how can you help them locate luxury items for?
Yeah, at a consignment store like ours, it's going to be easier because it's obviously curated. But if you're in a thrift store, I always say just scrap labels. And look for the fabrics. So I always tend to go for natural fibers, silk, wool, you know, the cashmere, leather, those like I always say, don't go for polyester and, you know, the polyurethane. So those vegan leather bags and things, they actually peel and they're bad for the environment. So I always go natural fibers. Don't think about brands, because something might be a nice brand, but then it's made of plastic. So, you know, you want those pieces that are quality and made to last. So I always say natural fibers. go there with a list. So sometimes it can get overwhelming. And if you're just starting op shopping or thrifting, just come in with an idea in mind. And like Kayla said, you know, you can ask the assistant, look, I've got or this event, I've got this to go to, can you help me find this? I always try to go on a Tuesday to most op shops because people donate mostly on a weekend. Monday they're sorting, and Tuesday is usually a really good day to go to an op shop because they have the best stuff. Don't be afraid to ask them sometimes to hold things. You might be trying to put an outfit together and you've got various op shops to go to, and you're like, look, can you hold this for half an hour while I like look at another op shop? So don't race in to buy. Do make sure, just because it's cheap or, you know, it's an op shop, that it's a considered buy. So we say come a bit more prepared if you're just starting out. Go for quality fabrics. But also if you do find something that looks luxury, feel free to Google the brand, get your phone out, look it up. Oh, wow. Like one time 10 years ago, I found a Longchamp leather bag that was worth $500 in the $1 bin. And it was just such a good find. I don't know if they didn't know what the brand was. And I said, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. We're clearing stock. So I had a look online and I found out it was real. So you just don't know what you're going to find. You can Google the brand. It might be a brand you've never heard of before, but that's why have your phone on you. Google the brand. If it's made in Italy is a good indicator that there's quality there. So I always tend to look at where it's made. You know, is it a fast fashion? If it's generally fast fashion, even secondhand, I stay away from it just because of the quality. So just because you're buying something secondhand doesn't mean it's going to last if it's fast fashion. So I always say quality over everything.
Great, thank you. Well, that Tuesday tip is fantastic. And what I'm hearing from all of you, I think, is be prepared to spend a bit of time. I mean, if you're consciously avoiding fast fashion, it can take a bit longer. And I know we're all starved for time, but also the payoffs can be incredible in terms of what you find. And one of the other advantages I've always found about vintage and secondhand clothing is it always gives you a terribly boring anecdote to completely shellac somebody with at a party when they say, oh, I like your dress, and then you can give them 10 minutes on where you found it, and it's fun for you, maybe not for everybody else, but it's a great icebreaker. Now, God, this time is going so quickly, so we're going to zoom into our just tips about how to style secondhand clothing. I'm going to start with you, Arietta, because I'd love for you to talk us through what you're wearing today and reflect on how thrifting has helped you develop your personal style.
So this dress I actually got, I'm not going to show it off very well, but so this is like, it was sold, I got it on eBay, and it was described as a vintage handmade dress. So it's got no tags or anything, and it's all hand stitched. I'm pretty sure, like it's really amazing quality. My yaya was a dressmaker, so I can really appreciate handmade items. I actually inherited a industrial sewing machine from her, which I'm too frightened to use. So yeah, I love handmade stuff. But it's just, I've worn this so many times because I can dress it up or dress it down. And I've just accessorized. My friend Kim, she runs Transcendent Vintage, and she takes like tags and buttons from designer bags and repurposes it into jewelry. Wow. So this is, one of her Chanel necklaces. I've got like 2 pairs of earrings and 2 necklaces from her. I'm a bit obsessed, but she does all sorts of Dior and I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but lots of brands, luxury brands that she repurposes into jewelry. So a bit of a shout out for her. She's on Instagram and eBay. So that's my outfit. But personal style, I wear what I'm comfortable in. I know I'm plus size, but I'm a bit of an hourglass, so I know that nipping in at the waist suits me. But I wear lots of different things. I try and repurpose things. I have a very good tailor. I think if you're looking at items, if you love something and you've grown out of it, or I've had a couple of vintage dresses that I had to take out because, I've grown. And so having a really good tailor, she can take a dress and I'll be like, oh, look, I just want it bigger here and change this hem and change this sleeve. And she'll just do it. She's amazing. So finding a good tailor to help you out to repurpose items into something that fits you or suits your body, or is what you're comfortable in, I think is really important. If you're stuck, I use Pinterest as an inspiration. I'll be like, oh, like I want to wear some hot pink and color block it. So you just literally put in hot pink color blocking outfits in Pinterest and you'll get so much inspiration. So in a lead up to this today, I actually did a bit of a challenge on my Instagram. We did an October challenge. So I gave a few prompts, and people that joined in were really like, oh, I loved it because like made me rethink what I've got and think of different ways to style. But I guess like wear what you're comfortable with. Like if you love, you know, the 70s, go nuts, you know, wear the bell bottoms and the paisley and go crazy. Like I think it's so much beauty in people wearing what they like. And it's that confidence, because if you're happy with what you're wearing and you feel good, you'll look good because you're radiating that from inside, like because you feel good about yourself. So I'm a really big advocate for wear what you want, like wear what you feel good in.
If you own it, it's gonna work, right?
100%.
Thanks, Ari. Beck, I'm just dying to hear about your jacket that I've been kind of eyeing off online. Can you tell us a little bit? You told us that, you know, your personal style has changed since you started getting into thrifting. That is a fabulous jacket. What sort of things have you started wearing that you didn't used to wear?
I've always loved shoulder pads, and I think for my body type, I have pretty much a quintessential pear shape, but I've always loved shoulder pads as a structure. I think it gives a really good silhouette. So anything that I can pick up that's a jacket or a blouse, they're usually the first things that I look at in an op shop anyway. I will go straight to jackets and coats, then I do blouses, and then I'll do scarves. So anything around the neck. So I'm always looking for some kind of pussy bow or a cravat tie bow, anything that I can tie up or wear a scarf with. I'm very much into oversized earrings. That's how my style has probably developed. I think, I don't know where the inspiration came from essentially, but when I started op shopping, I think it was just more about the quality of anything. I would look at things and I would be like, oh, that's a really nice jacket. And then I'd pick it up and I'd look at the label. And like the other girls, you know, I'm really into the quality of it. And I'd be like, oh, wow, this is made in Australia. And what is this brand? And then I started researching actually. So with the whole journey that I've been on it, I just, like every day was just a different day. Oh, I've never heard of that brand before. I'm going to learn about them. Or I don't know about stitching, so I'm going to learn about that. And there's another book that I listened to, which was Elizabeth Klein's The Conscious Closet. And that was just absolutely amazing for just understanding how things are made and tailored. And so I probably just morphed into this, you know, into this style. But I mean, I will rarely have anything. I do like to mix my vintage and my modern. I actually don't really have a lot now from head to toe. I pretty much have a pre-loved outfit. So my earrings came from an op shop. They came from the Uniting op shop. I had this pussy bow blouse that came from a vintage seller on Instagram. This is actually my mum's. And I always try and center my outfit around something. So whether it is a blouse or whether it's a pair of shoes or whether it's a jacket, I will start with that as my key piece, and then I put everything together. So I thought today, I might do a Chanel inspired look today. So I kind of looked at everything and thought, all right, now I'm going to put this together. But the jacket was really, it was my key piece today because it's secondhand. It was mum's from the 1980s. So it's an old 1980s Perry cotton. Then I'm wearing velvet leopard print pants, which I can't really show. It's a little bit difficult. But they're like black leopard print pants that I also got from an op shop. I think they were from Vinnie's. And then to top it off, I did take these off earlier, but I have these gold vintage shoes that I got from Instagram from someone in Adelaide. So I have a full outfit today that's been pre-loved. And I love it. It's great.
Wow.
You know, it makes me feel good. Like Ari said, it's just about, I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for me.
It's such a great message. And thank you, Beck. Sometimes, we've all had those days where you look at your wardrobe and you think, I have nothing to wear, even though there's heaps of stuff there. There's actually like techniques that you can use. I mean, a year or two ago, I did the social outfits challenge where you wear the same garment every day, styled in 5 different ways, right? Like, so you go through the week. And that actually helped me to put things together that I'd never considered putting together before. And I thought, oh my God, there's actually heaps of outfits in my wardrobe that I've never kind of thought laterally about before. So, I mean, that's a good challenge to do. Like, pick one thing that you love and style it 5 different ways for a week, and you'll find it opens up all of your ideas about how to make use of what's already in your wardrobe. Now, I mean, we are running out of time so rapidly at the moment, and I apologize. I think we're going to go a tiny bit over. But I wondered, Kayla, if you could quickly tell us where your sources of inspiration are for putting great outfits together.
Oh my God. Honestly, I take inspiration from everywhere. I'm not the type of person to go onto Pinterest or Instagram. I take inspiration from people I see on the street.
The nanny, brilliant.
Pardon?
The nanny, so good.
Yeah, that was so much fun to make. Yeah. I really love as well. I love 70s fashion. So my favorite story growing up was the Brady Bunch. And so a lot of flares, the shirts, I love it all. So I probably am really drawn to a lot of 70s fashion. And that's great for op shopping too, because there's so many beautiful gems there.
So good. It's actually just a creative challenge in so many ways. It's almost like an art form. Here's what we're seeing on screen now is Kayla's got straight onto the new Heartbreak High, which has just been an international hit for an Australian television production. You can see it on Netflix. It's absolutely fantastic. And you have responded very swiftly by thriftily putting together outfits that borrow from that great vibe that you see on Heartbreak High. They are looking absolutely superb. I want to get to you quickly, Emily. Can you just talk us quickly through your outfit today and what inspires you and where you find your styling ideas?
Yeah, so this blazer is actually from a sustainable brand called Studio Amelia. So they're just new on the scene, but they had an outlet sale and I ended up using, it's very classic. I use it for work. So this one I also got Dion Lee off Facebook Marketplace. I generally tend to go on there or eBay, or sometimes I find things consignment that come in. And I also got my pants op shopped from, because I'm in Paddington, we've got some amazing op shops. By some time when I've got time, have a look. But I like to.
Can I interrupt you for a second and just ask? I'm not a big Facebook user, but Facebook Marketplace, how do you search for stuff on there? I mean.
Yeah, it is actually harder to search compared to Poshmark and eBay and places like that. But I tend to just put a brand if I'm looking for a brand in particular, or say blazer or white blazer. If you're looking for a particular color, I find that works really well. And also the Facebook groups. I'm on High End, which is a designer resale platform. Yeah. So it's a really good group. I also buy a lot of Zimmerman. So I'm on a Zimmerman buy, swap, sell group. I sometimes buy things secondhand to rent out because I'd rather buy them pre-loved as opposed to new as well. And that's a really great way to connect with your community. I've actually made some friends from meeting those sellers in person, and they're like, oh, come visit you in store. So it's great to connect in that way. I also get my inspiration for my style is just my lifestyle. So if you're still figuring out your style, figure out what suits your lifestyle well. And for me, I'm always at work and I need something that can transcend from work to evening events. So I like to have a nice blazer, a nice coat. My tips would be using accessories to really elevate an outfit. So a really nice, good quality leather bag. That photo that's online, that was a Burberry trench I got secondhand on Gumtree, the Celine bag on Gumtree, and my leather tights were also from Vinnie's Op Shop. So yeah, you could really put together a look that could look very expensive for just only a fraction of the price just from finding new. And don't be afraid to use multiple platforms. So I use practically everything, and even though I've got a consignment store, I'm still shopping at other vintage stores. I'm still going thrifting. I'm online on eBay, I'm on Marketplace, I'm on those groups, and I'm constantly, like Kayla said, being consistent. And so your style will just naturally evolve from there because you're figuring out who you are, what your style is, what suits your lifestyle. So yeah, that would be my best tips.
Great. Now, I've been incorporating a few questions that have come through, and I'm just going to make time for a couple more before we finish up. I know that particularly here in Gadigal country, it's a bloody beautiful day. So if you're dialing in from there, you probably want to get out and amongst it, and I don't want to detain you all unnecessarily. But besides, I think Beck's housemates are come home from the pub. It'll be very noisy. This is going to be a speed round. So I'm going to ask the question, and whoever feels like answering it, stick your hand up because we don't want to have to go around the whole group. There's a really interesting question from AC, not me, AC, a different one. In addition to thrifting, does the panel have any suggestions on how to restyle an existing garment to suit changing body shapes? Also how to salvage, for instance, an old light-coloured silk blouse that is discoloured slightly. What happens when garments are a little bit discoloured? Okay, here we go. Emily,
sorry. Yeah, so we actually had a couple of zero waste workshops we did with Wallara Council, and we had this amazing woman, a friend of mine, Annie Hoban from Oh Dear Vintage. So she is incredible for finding amazing vintage pieces and reviving them. In the workshop, I actually gave her a dress that I bought from a vintage store in Brisbane. It was ripped. It had rust and mold stains all over it, but I was so in love with the dress. And I thought, you know what? I know I can do something with this. I didn't do anything with it for 5 years. I met Annie, we had the workshop, and I thought, what a brilliant idea. How about if I get you to mend and repair this dress and we can use it as a tutorial for the workshop? So vinegar, sunlight, she bathed it 3 times. It actually got all of the yellow and yellow stains and mold stains just from bathing it gently. So only hand washing it, putting it in sunlight, a bit of vinegar, and it got the smell and all the stains out. And then she just repaired all the broken zips and everything like that. And it was actually good as new. And that was a dress from the 40s. So it just goes to show something love, it can become new again. And that dress is rented twice for young ladies for formals. So they want something different. They don't want to be like other girls out there. So we offer vintage for rent. So, you know, it just goes to show something that's old can be new again and can be loved even by people this day and age. So
vinegar and sunlight, they are inexpensive and very old-fashioned remedies, but it's great to hear how useful they can be in bringing a bit of life back into those beautiful old garments. I'll give you one more question, and again, show of hands if you can think of anything. I know that we've all counselled, you know, do a bit of research, have a look into what you're shopping for. If you're in an op shop and you want to find out what the value is of something that you're looking at, or even if you're looking online and you want to know whether this is a fair price to pay for something, one of our questioners has asked, are there any general not label specific sites to look up labels and brands to find out what things are actually worth?
Ooh. So I've got a lot of eBay seller friends, and they told me a really good trick of, so type it into eBay in their search and then change the filters to sold items, and that will tell you so everything that's matched that description and how much it's sold for. So that gives you because sometimes we can search in eBay and people have it listed at a particular price and that may not reflect the true value, but looking at sold and what the price is that it's sold for gives you a better idea. That's a trick that I use sometimes. And I find that gives you a good idea of what the general consensus is on how much that item's worth.
That is such a great tip. Thank you. I'd never thought of that, and I shall use that one. Look, we are going to have to wind it up. I'm going to hand back to Barbara, but can I just say thank you so much for the energy and the experience that you've brought to this online tutorial. I've learned so much just from the 4 of you in this quick hour of back and forth. I would love to meet up with you all and go for a giant, big, dirty thrifting tour one day.
Yeah.
Of course, a reminder that exactly that kind of big, dirty thrifting day is coming up in a couple of weeks from now. Let me just remind myself of the dates. We are looking at I'm so bad with dates at the moment. That's why I'm looking at my notes. The garage sale trail is happening on the 12th and 13th, and then the 19th and 20th of November. So all of these tips you can take with you and go out and find some gold. Thank you so much, panelists. It's been a joy talking to you today. Over to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Annabelle. That was just incredible. And I agree, there was just so much to learn there. If only we'd had longer, because there's just so much, such a wealth and depth of knowledge from everyone. So a huge thank you, Annabelle. A huge thank you to all our panelists, to Rebecca, Kayla, Emily, and Arietta. Just a few things to wrap up with you all. As mentioned, if you're ready to get your new thrift skills in action, the Garage Sale Trail is coming up on the 12th, 13th, 19th, and 20th of November. Head to garagesaletrail.com.au to have a look at the sales happening near you. I'm sure lots of you on the line now will want to recap on some of the tips covered. So we have been recording today. Keep your eyes peeled on your inbox, and we will get a recording sent to you in the next couple of hours so you can watch the best bits back. That email will also include some links to all of the panelists' Instagram accounts. So if you have specific questions, I know there were some great ones coming in about Ari's repairer. Feel free to jump on, follow our presenters, keep in touch with them to continue to pick their brain and be inspired by all of their amazing thrift journeys online. Lastly, please do give us your feedback. It really helps us to make sure we continue to evolve and make these events even better. We've joined the future, and we're using QR codes, so you can point your phone and get straight to there now. Don't worry if you can't do that. We'll also email it to you in a link shortly, so watch out for that popping into your inbox. So that is it from us. A huge thank you again for joining us. It is a spectacular day out there, so we really appreciate it, particularly those on the East Coast that have been battling rain for months and months and months. One sunny day and you joined us, and we're incredibly grateful. A huge thank you for joining us, and we'll be in touch. Thanks so much. Bye.